During my mother-in-law's birthday toast, I smiled politely. Under the table, I held a flash drive with every secret she thought I'd never find. She raised her glass, and I raised hell. Everyone in the Warren family applauded as Diane finished her speech, all honeyed words about family, tradition, and strength. I clinked my glass with the others, the champagne bubbling against my lips, but my heart was pounding in my chest like a war drum. Because I knew what she'd done. I knew how long they'd been watching me, recording me, trying to push me over the edge just so they could say, "See? She's unstable." They wanted to break me. They wanted to erase me from Jude's life. And they thought they could do it with fake smiles, hidden cameras, and staged concern. But tonight, I wasn't the woman they thought they'd been filming. Tonight, I was the woman who'd found the footage. Uncut, unedited, undeniable. And I had copies. I looked across the table at Ethan. My husband, the father of my child, the man who said he loved me while handing over his passwords to his mother. He didn't look back. He didn't need to. Because in 5 minutes he'd have no choice. The video was already in the hands of someone waiting outside. And the second Diane blew out her candles, the projector would start. This wasn't just a birthday dinner. It was the final act of their little performance. And I was about to bring the curtain down. It started 3 weeks before Diane's birthday dinner. A Tuesday afternoon. Warm. Quiet. I was in the kitchen grading essays with Jude playing nearby. When my phone buzzed. Unknown number. No matter what they say, stay calm. They're trying to set you up. I stared at the screen. My first instinct? Delete it. Block it. Forget it. Because that's what they trained me to do. Dismiss the paranoia, doubt my own eyes, my own mind. But something about that message. It didn't feel like a threat. Felt like a lifeline. I started paying attention. Not just listening but watching. I noticed things. The sudden replacement of the picture frame in the hallway. The new air freshener plugged into the wall in Jude's room. The mirror in the upstairs guest bathroom that seemed tilted just enough to catch the hallway behind me. And I caught Diane watching me. Not in the usual "you'll never be good enough" way, but like a director observing an actress. Waiting for a mistake. Ethan kept brushing it off. "You're stressed, babe. It's all in your head." But every time I asked about changes in the house, he froze. Just for a second. Just long enough. I waited until he left for work. Pulled out his spare laptop. And that's when I saw it. Folder name, behavior under heating. Last modified, 2 hours ago. My hands went ice cold. I clicked it open. Video files. Timestamps. Room names. A file labeled Jude under conversation under 0420. Another, Savannah under 17. I couldn't breathe. They were watching me. In my home. In my most private moments. And they were labeling me like I was a project. A liability. But here's the thing about literature teachers. We don't just read stories. We know when one is being written about us. And I was about to write myself back into this one. Because if they wanted war, they picked the wrong woman to underestimate. The file named Jude under conversation 0420 haunted me. I hovered over it for hours. I didn't want to open it. Because deep down I already knew. I'd seen Diane whispering to Jude more than once. Crouching beside him in the playroom, brushing his hair back with that icy soft voice of hers. "Sometimes grown-ups have to make hard choices, sweetheart. Mommy's just tired again, right?" And he'd nod, not really understanding, just trying to please. That night after Jude fell asleep, I locked myself in the office. Clicked the video. The footage began grainy. The view was low, angled from the baseboard under his nightstand. A hidden lens. In his own bedroom. I felt sick. In the video, Jude sat on the floor playing with his toy cars. Diane sat beside him, too close. Her voice low, careful. "You know Mommy's been acting strange lately, right? She forgets things sometimes. It's not your fault if she needs help." Then she leaned in, brushed his cheek. "Soon you'll stay here more often. With Daddy. With me. It'll feel better, baby. Safer." I slammed the laptop shut. My hands were shaking so hard I dropped it. They weren't just recording me. They were manipulating my son. Using him as a pawn. Turning his innocence into a strategy. The next morning he looked up at me during breakfast and asked, "Mommy, are you sick in the head?" I dropped the spoon. The milk spilled. I didn't even move. Just stared at him. At those blue eyes full of someone else's words. That's when something in me snapped. Not in the way they wanted. Not the breakdown they were waiting to catch on camera. But something colder. Sharper. I kissed Jude on the forehead and said, "No, baby. Mommy's not sick. She's finally wide awake." I tucked him into school with a hug that lasted longer than usual. Then I drove straight to my lawyer's office. Because now this wasn't just invasion of privacy. This was war. And they'd crossed the line. My lawyer's office smelled like espresso and old paper. But that morning it smelled like justice. Her name was Marla Jennings, a former prosecutor with a reputation for making monsters sweat in air-conditioned courtrooms. I slid the flash drive across her desk. Said nothing. He plugged it in. Watched. Listened. Clicked. And then finally she looked up at me and said, "Savannah, this isn't just a civil case. This is criminal." Within the hour we'd filed an emergency protection order against Diane Warren for emotional manipulation and attempted custodial interference. We also initiated a motion for temporary sole custody of Jude. While Marla drafted the paperwork, I sat in the corner of her office, barely blinking. My body was still, but inside something new had taken root. Not fear. Fire. They had documented everything, thinking it would be their weapon. But now it was evidence. And it was mine. The camera in Jude's room? Legal. The edited video of me breaking down? Provable tampering. The whispers Diane fed into my son's ears? Pattern of coercive influence. And Ethan? He was implicated now. For knowing and doing nothing. For letting his mother run her little experiment inside our home. We submitted the request to the judge by 2 p.m. By 4:30 it was signed. Effective immediately. Diane Warren was barred from any contact with Jude. And just like that, the first wall fell. I drove home in silence. No music. No distractions. Just the sound of my own breath, steady for the first time in weeks. When I pulled into the driveway, Diane's car was already there. She stood on the porch like a vulture, sunglasses on, lips pursed. She didn't wave. She didn't smile. She handed me a store-bought casserole dish like we were still pretending. I took it, set it down, and said flatly, "You're not allowed to speak to my son anymore." Her face cracked. "Excuse me. Court order. Take it up with the judge." She didn't scream. She didn't argue. She just stood there. Like a woman who finally realized her chessboard was missing a queen. I shut the door in her face. And for the first time in that house, the silence felt like mine. That night the house felt strange. Too quiet. Not peaceful. Just watchful, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Jude had fallen asleep hugging his stuffed bear. And I was folding laundry when there was a knock on the guest room door. Cameron. My sister-in-law. The quiet one. The one who never took sides. Never raised her voice. Never stayed long. She stood in the doorway with her arms wrapped around herself. Like the guilt alone was holding her together. "Savannah. I need to talk to you. Privately." I nodded. She stepped in, closed the door softly, and sat on the edge of the guest bed like it might collapse beneath the weight of what she was about to say. Her voice shook. I knew. Not everything, not at first. But enough. Enough to know what they were planning. I didn't speak. Didn't blink. She continued, her eyes darting to the hallway like someone might be listening. The cameras weren't just Diane's idea. Ethan agreed to them. He said it was for documentation. That you were unstable. That they needed proof, in case of a custody fight. They called it soft pressure. Make you break a little. Make you cry. Record the worst parts, cut out the rest. Cameron's lip trembled. I didn't know they were using Jude. Not until I saw a transcript. I leaned forward, my voice like ice. Transcript. She reached into her purse. Pulled out a folded document. Slid it into my hands. A printed email thread. Subject line, contingency if Savannah escalates. It was between Diane and Ethan. Attached, a list of suggested trigger phrases to provoke me. You forgot again? You're scaring Jude. Do you need help, Savannah? Manufactured gaslighting. By design. I looked up. Why now, Cameron? Why are you telling me this? She swallowed hard. Because I have a son too. And if someone ever did to me what they're doing to you, I'd want someone to finally say something. Then she stood. Took a deep breath. I've already sent a copy to your lawyer. I don't want anything to do with this family anymore. Before she left, she turned back and said, You think you're alone. You're not. Not anymore. She walked out. And for a moment I just sat there. 100 pieces of a puzzle suddenly snapping together. I had a playbook. They'd been scripting my downfall. But now, I had the script. And I was about to rewrite the ending. I called it a celebration dinner. 10 years of marriage. Family only. Low-key. Just love and laughter. At least, that's what the invitation said. Diane texted back immediately. So proud of you both. I'll bring my lemon cake. Ethan sent a thumbs up. His dad replied with a gif. And Cameron? She simply wrote. I'll be there. They had no idea they were walking into their own reckoning. I rented a cozy little venue on the edge of Charleston. Brick walls. Warm lights. A single projector hidden behind a floral arrangement. I hired a tech. Preloaded the drive. Told him, you'll know when to press play. I set the tables. Flowers. Name cards. Soft music. Everything looked like a Hallmark movie. But I was dressed for war. That evening the Warrens arrived like royalty. Diane in pearls, clutching her cake dish like a crown. Ethan with his charming mask on, shaking hands, kissing cheeks. Everyone played their part. Until dessert. I stood up, tapped my glass. The room quieted. Before we dig into this beautiful cake, I'd like to share a little something. A memory reel, you could say. To celebrate what this family really stands for. I nodded to the tech. The lights dimmed. The projector whirred. And then the screen lit up. First clip. Jude. Sitting on the floor. Diane's voice, clear as crystal. Soon you'll stay here more. With Daddy. With me. It'll feel better. Safer. Whispers erupted. Next clip. The original unedited footage of my bedroom breakdown. Just me. Reading a farewell letter from my father. Quiet tears. No screaming. No meltdown. The side-by-side edited version played next. Audio clipped. Volume distorted. Context erased. Why? A smear campaign choreographed. Gasps filled the room. Then the emails. Printed, dated, scrolling on screen. Trigger phrases. Timestamps. Attachments. Diane's name. Ethan's initials. Everything. Someone stood. Ethan's uncle. What the hell is this? Diane slammed her fork down. You manipulative little. But before she could finish, her husband spoke. Enough, Diane. You said you were helping her. You said she was dangerous. But this is calculated. Silence. Then Cameron stepped forward. She's not lying. I gave her the emails. Diane's mouth fell open. Ethan lunged toward the tech booth. Turn it off. But the tech looked at me. I nodded. Just one more. Final clip. Ethan's voice. A phone call. Once we have footage, she won't stand a chance in court. I'll push her just enough. Then we'll get the house. And Jude. You could hear a pin drop. No one touched their cake. I walked to the center of the room. Took a deep breath. You all spent years pretending this family was built on love. Turns out it was built on surveillance and silence. You tried to erase me. But I recorded everything. I turned and walked out. Left them with their guilt, their cake, and their lies echoing off the walls. That night back home, Jude was already asleep. I kissed his forehead. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel watched. I felt free. The morning after the dinner, I woke up to sunlight pouring through the windows. For a moment. Just a moment. It felt like peace. No texts. No slurs painted on my car. No fake apologies from Diane. I made coffee. Checked emails. Sorted mail. And then I saw it. A large envelope. Legal letterhead. No return address. I opened it absent-mindedly, expecting more court paperwork. What I got was betrayal in ink. A signed deed transfer. The house I was living in. My home. Jude's room. My garden. The space I had fought for. Had been sold. To a woman named Megan Lang. Signed 2 days before the dinner. By Ethan. I dropped the papers like they burned. Megan Lang? That name meant nothing to me. But the more I stared at it, the more it felt placed. Like a signature left on purpose. I grabbed my laptop. Typed her name into every search engine, property registry, and public database I could find. Nothing. No Facebook. No LinkedIn. No birth records in state. But then I found it. A deactivated Instagram. One post. Black and white. Years old. For people at a college party. In the background, a young Ethan. And on his lap? Her. Megan. The caption, "My first home." She wasn't new. She was from the beginning. The woman from before me. The one Diane once referred to as the only girl who truly understood Ethan. The house was never meant to be mine. I was just passing through. Temporary. Disposable. Megan was the fallback plan. Plan B. The reset. And Ethan had quietly handed it all over before I even stepped into court. I stared at the wall like it might shatter from the weight of this truth. They didn't just want to remove me. They wanted to replace me. Erase me from the deed, from the family, from my son's memory. And now the home I bled to protect was legally someone else's. I didn't cry. Not this time. I packed every document. Made copies. Called Marla. She answered on the first ring. "He sold it to her," I said. "And she's not just some random buyer. She's part of this." There was a pause. Then, "We're going to reverse it. Fraud, conflict of interest, pre-existing relationship. We have grounds." I didn't say thank you. I just said, "I'm not leaving. They're going to have to drag me out." Because now it wasn't just about the house. It was about refusing to be erased. Marla worked fast. Within 48 hours she filed a motion to suspend the property transfer, citing evidence of pre-existing personal ties between Ethan and Megan Lang. But something didn't sit right. There was no paper trail on Megan. No utility bills. No employment records. No voter registration. Just an empty shell. Too clean. Too intentional. That night, after putting Jude to bed, I pulled out the old graduation photo again. Ethan. A basement party. Red Solo cups. And Megan, sitting on his lap wearing his varsity jacket. But there was something else. In the background, taped to the wall, was a banner. "Congrats, Columbia Law Class of 2009. I zoomed in. Enhanced. Cropped. Then searched. Columbia Law 2009 Megan Lang. Nothing. So I searched alumni lists. Nothing again. Then, on a Reddit law school thread from 2014, buried in a comment chain, I found it. ML from SC got disbarred after the identity theft scandal. Changed her name last I heard. Crazy story. My heart stopped. I messaged the user. No reply. So I dug deeper. And then it all unraveled. Megan Lang didn't exist. She was a new name, legally changed in 2015. But her former identity? Rebecca Hale. A woman charged with fraudulent impersonation, obstruction of justice, and one sealed charge connected to an abusive custody case. And the lawyer who helped seal her records? Michael C. Dunbridge. Senior partner at the firm where Ethan still worked. The same man who handled Ethan's and my prenup. The same man who once called me unstable in a mediation meeting with a smirk. It wasn't just Diane. Not just Ethan. There was an entire web. Built to discredit women. Protect reputations. Shuffle around power and homes like chess pieces. With mothers and children as pawns. And Megan, or Rebecca, was a recurring player in their system. She was the cleanup crew. The shadow wife. The safe option they turned to once the real wives got too loud, too smart, too dangerous. I printed everything. Photos. Threads. Legal records. Brought them to Marla. She stared at the documents for a long time. Then looked up. "You have enough for a federal inquiry. Identity fraud. Real estate fraud. Possibly even conspiracy to obstruct custody." I nodded. "Let's take them all down." "All of them?" she asked. I looked her dead in the eyes. No mercy. Because this wasn't just about me anymore. It was about every woman they'd erased. Every home they'd quietly stolen. Every child turned against a mother who was just trying to survive. The date was set. The Charleston Family Values Gala. Annual fundraiser. Hundreds of guests. Cameras. Donors. Features. And Ethan was the keynote speaker. Alongside Michael C. Dunbridge. The man who helped bury Megan Lang's past and silence every woman like me. This time I wasn't bringing a flash drive. I was bringing documents. Contracts. Audio. Screenshots. Sworn testimony. Evidence. And when Ethan would speak about honor, loyalty, fatherhood, I would walk to the stage and show them who he really was. But the night before the gala, something happened. I was home alone. Jude was at a sleepover. Marla was finalizing documents. I was folding laundry when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Blocked caller. I almost didn't answer. But something made me press accept. There was no greeting. Just a cold, distorted voice. You're exposing too much. You're not just being watched anymore. You're being noted. End call. I stood frozen. Noted? What did that even mean? I called Marla. Told her everything. She didn't flinch. You're rattling the cage, Savannah. The system doesn't like noise. But don't stop. Do you think they'll retaliate? I asked. No. I think they already are. That night I checked the security cameras around the house. There was a car. But no plates. Parked across the street for hours. Same one I'd seen the week before but ignored. I logged into the system. Reviewed footage from the past 3 nights. The same car. Same time. Same spot. Always leaving just before sunrise. The next morning, a plain envelope arrived in the mailbox. Inside, a photo of me and Jude at the park taken from a distance. On the back, handwritten in perfect cursive. Reputation can be rebuilt. But custody? That's harder. No return address. No fingerprints. I showed it to the police. They filed a report. But without a name. It was just a warning. Another ghost behind another curtain. But this time I wasn't scared. I was furious. Because this proved one thing. They were worried. And worried people make mistakes. That night I put on my black dress. Tied my hair back. Packed every document into a leather case. And looked in the mirror, not to fix my makeup. But to stare straight into the eyes of a woman they thought would shatter. I'm not your secret. I'm your consequence. I picked up my keys. And left for the gala. Because the storm they tried to send my way, I was walking straight into it. And I brought thunder. The ballroom glowed with chandeliers and polished hypocrisy. Charleston's elite had gathered in pearls and pressed suits to toast family values. Unaware they were about to choke on their own slogans. I walked in alone. No smile. No handshakes. Just a leather case clutched tight and a quiet fire behind my eyes. At 8:17 p.m. Ethan took the stage. He looked exactly like the man they all loved. Composed. Draped in charm and tailored wool. Tonight we celebrate family. Not just bloodlines. But loyalty, unity, and trust. People nodded. Clapped. I watched. Waited. Until he said it. We raise our children to become strong, honest individuals. By being strong, honest parents. And that's when I stood up. The crowd turned. Whispers rose. I walked calmly to the front. Straight to the AV technician. Handed him the drive. Play it. Now. The projector screen behind Ethan flickered on. His smile froze. First slide. Custody contingency strategy, internal memo. Subject, if Savannah escalates. Signed Ethan Warren. CC Michael C. Dunbridge. Attached, trigger phrases. Edited scripts. Surveillance plans. Gasps rippled. Next. Side-by-side video footage. Savannah losing it in the bedroom. Then the original, her whispering to her dying mother over the phone. Third. Audio. Ethan's voice. Push her. She'll fall apart. Once she cracks, Jude's mine. The room exploded. One woman covered her mouth. A man in the back cursed under his breath. Someone else started recording on their phone. Michael Dunbridge bolted up from his seat. This is slander. I turned to him. It's evidence. Then looked straight at the audience. You wanted a speech about values? Here it is. This is what manipulation looks like in a suit and tie. This is how reputations are protected while women are broken behind closed doors. But I didn't break. And I'm not the only one. A woman stood. From the second row. Blonde. Early 40s. Shaking. He did the same thing to me. 4 years ago. Another voice from the back. Me too. Michael's face drained white. Security surrounded the stage. The tech turned off the projector. But it was too late. The truth was out. And it was loud. Ethan stepped back. Silent. Cornered. No speech could save him now. No PR firm could bury what had just been recorded on a dozen phones. I stepped down from the stage, past his frozen figure. Looked him dead in the eyes. You built a story without me. Now live in it without me. I walked out of the ballroom and left them all beneath the weight of their own performance. That night the internet lit up. Clips spread. Hashtags trended. News anchors used words like coordinated emotional abuse, evidence of conspiracy, legal retaliation pending. By morning, Ethan had been suspended. Michael was under formal investigation. And the house under judicial hold. But most importantly, I picked up Jude from his friend's house. He smiled, ran into my arms. Mommy, why are people saying you're a hero? I smiled back. Because I stopped pretending. And I started fighting. For 48 hours I was everywhere. On news tickers. In think pieces. In side-by-side TikToks with captions like, "She didn't just survive. She dismantled them." But I didn't feel victorious. I felt exposed. Every time I opened my phone there was a new article. A new analysis. A new inbox full of anonymous confessions from women I didn't know. He did this to me too. I never had proof. But watching your video made me feel seen. The firm went silent. Their website went offline. And Ethan? He filed a motion to delay his court hearing. Cited emotional distress. How ironic. But I wasn't resting. Because something inside me knew. This wasn't done. And then the envelope arrived. No postage. Just sitting on my doorstep at sunrise. Inside. A single photograph. Of me. Sleeping. The same blue sheets I'd changed 2 nights ago. The same book I'd left on the nightstand. Taken from above. Like someone had been in the room. On the back, handwritten. You still don't know what I'm capable of. I dropped the photo. Locked every window. Checked every camera feed. Nothing. But the fear wasn't in the house. It was in the implication. That even after the courtroom, the media, the dinner, the projector, someone still had access. Someone still wasn't finished. I called Marla. Told her everything. She paused. We assumed Megan vanished. What if she didn't? We pulled records. No signs of new activity under Megan Lang. But a rental under the name Becca L. Hart. Just 3 miles away. Paid in cash. Connected to a burner phone. Leased the week of the gala. Police obtained a warrant. Inside the apartment. Photos of me and Jude. Surveillance notebooks. Email drafts never sent. Even cut out headlines from recent coverage. And in the back closet? A box labeled Final Option. Inside. Microcameras. An outdated laptop. A forged custody petition. It was her. Megan. Or rather Rebecca Hale. The woman who refused to be erased. The shadow that refused to stay gone. She was building her own narrative. A final version. One where she didn't just remove me. She became me. We filed emergency charges. Stalking. Trespassing. Child endangerment. Identity manipulation. And within 24 hours she was arrested. But this time, no sealed records. No backroom deals. Just spotlight. And truth. That night after Jude went to sleep I finally sat down with a blank notebook. And I started to write. Everything. Not for the press. Not for the court. But for Jude. So one day if he ever asked, what happened to us? He wouldn't get silence. He'd get the truth. 3 months later. The court granted me full custody. Ethan's rights were suspended indefinitely. The house was returned under judicial hold. And Megan Lang, no Rebecca Hale, was sentenced to 18 months for aggravated stalking and identity fraud. The firm collapsed. Michael Dunbridge lost his license. The media moved on. But I didn't. Because healing doesn't move on. It moves through. I sold the house. Too many walls had listened to things they should have never heard. I bought a small place in Asheville. With creaky floors, an overgrown backyard, and a lemon tree that refuses to die. It's quiet here. Safe. Unwatched. Jude started sleeping through the night again. No whispers. No cameras. Just bedtime stories and stargazing from the porch. One evening he asked me, "Is it all over now, Mommy?" I paused. Because what do you say to that? To a child who watched you fight, cry, fall, and rise again? I pulled him close and whispered, "It's over for now. But we stay ready. Not scared. Just awake." He nodded. Like he understood more than I wanted him to. I never did go public with my story. No interviews. No book deal. But I wrote it all down, in longhand. Every twisted thread. Every lie. Every name. And I left it in a sealed envelope, tucked into a locked drawer with one label. For Jude. When he's ready to know what strength really looks like. One Saturday morning I opened the windows. Let sunlight pour in. I brewed coffee barefoot, hair a mess. And for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of the knock at the door. Or the shadow behind the curtains. Or the message left in the mailbox. Because I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was reclaiming. My name. My voice. My motherhood. My story. You see, they tried to write my ending for me. Label me. Dismiss me. Erase me. But what they didn't realize is, you can't erase a woman who's learned to write in fire. Truth doesn't always roar. Sometimes it waits in silence, then speaks loud enough to shatter generations of lies. If you're watching this and you feel unheard, unseen, unbelieved, let this be your reminder. You don't need permission to reclaim your story. Just courage.
If this story resonated with you, leave a comment. Tell us, have you ever had to heal without an apology? And what gave you the strength to keep going anyway? Speech balloon, you never know. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Bell like, subscribe, and share if you believe in turning pain into power. And remember, your story isn't over. It's just beginning.